Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Minions of the Zoo 1481. I'm your host, Johnny Hellcat, and with me today are Minions Terry Diamantis.
Only 7 more until we have the evil number as the stream count. So that'll be interesting to see how YouTube handles that.
Oh, yeah. And Sanguine.
Good evening, all.
How are you guys doing this evening?
I'm doing
Yeah,
grand.
same
And
goes.
yourself?
Well, I guess it's not evening for you yet there, Terry.
Nope, it's 3:30 in the afternoon.
All right. So how are things going?
I'm
With
doing great.
me, well, with Sanguine.
Well, you as in general, so whoever wants to speak first.
Why don't you go first, Sarah?
Yeah, not bad. I've been playing through the fighting fantasy books for the last few weeks, and yeah, I'm up to 54 out of 69. So that's been keeping me busy. So yeah, I'm all right.
All right. And you, Sanguine?
I'm doing rather grand. I'm just setting up my dinner for tonight and 2 nights hence to marinate. So I have salmon, sashimi grade salmon, that I'm currently marinating tonight's dinner in a combo of smoked Haku shoyu and Haku's black garlic shoyu, with 2 types of togarashi, which is also sometimes known by its fuller name of uh, Simichi Togarashi. Oh, sorry, Nanami Togarashi, which is Japanese 7 spice powder.
Hmm.
And that I'm going to sear off, throw on top of some rice, mix in some ume into the rice, serve that up with a asahi, a couple different types of sake, and probably a Japanese whiskey that I found that actually doesn't taste like ground glass and gasoline.
Hmm. You mean a whiskey with flavor?
A Japanese whiskey with a pleasant flavor,
Ah.
which is a rarity. I've had many Irish whiskeys that are delicious. I've had many scotches that are delicious. I've had a handful of American whiskeys and bourbons, because bourbon's just a subcategory of whiskey, which are rather lovely. But before the whiskey that I found today, I had not had a Japanese whiskey that didn't taste like ground glass and gasoline.
I've been wanting to get a still so that I can make a whiskey. Being that actually in the state it is legal to own a still and to
Nice.
produce whiskey, so long as it under 5 gallons.
Nice. So, what type of whiskey would you try to produce?
Well, moonshine for one. That would be that was the initial thought. Is just a moonshine.
Are you going to go for standard American moonshine, or are you going to branch out a bit and try your hand at making some Pasheen?
Probably doing something with some flavor to it. A little bit of both, actually. I did actually contemplate getting the still to actually make ethanol, because I can actually get a license to make that, and it is
Nice.
and it is far cheaper to get a license to make that than it is to get one to make alcohol. Which isn't far off from the other thing, so it is odd.
Yep. And just so that everyone knows the word that I said, because I realize that it is not in common parlance, Pasheen is a young Irish whiskey. So it is the Irish moonshine, if you would.
Yeah, there are many different types that are pretty interesting.
Yeah, you can have corn mash, you can have barley, you can have wheat, all kinds of different grain bases to your moonshine.
Yeah, there was the show on was it the History Channel or was it A&E that had the moonshiners, and they were talking about the corn stuff they usually put together. Most of the time they make it as corn. There was one that I watched and I don't remember where, but I think they made their hash with like fruit in it.
Mm-hmm.
And that seemed a bit more interesting to me than just regular corn hash.
Yeah, so it's like making a Applejack, only a young Applejack rather than aging your Applejack.
Yeah.
That sounds interesting.
No, it was an interest that I had, a while ago, and every so often, because just the tweet that I don't remember who it was. It was just currently they were talking about who is. Can you raise your hand and say you've gotten a DUI or haven't gotten a DUI? And I know her name offhand. I can't think of it. She goes by Sissa on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
She said that she wouldn't do it because she doesn't want to risk, hurting someone on the road. And Suit actually said that he doesn't drink. And I just mentioned that when I got together with my wife, yeah, I pretty much my drinking just kind of ground to a halt. I haven't drank as heavily since that started, and that started since my relationship started. That thing. Yeah, and I just I haven't had a reason to, or really time or money, but I mean, I have the occasional beer here and there.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, nothing out of control like I used to. Back in my bachelor days, it was a bottle every couple of nights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hit the liquor store earlier this morning, or earlier today rather, and picked up some more beers because I was running low on certain sorts of beers. Picked up the Japanese whiskey that I was able to find that actually tasted good because that liquor store has tasting samples that you can go for. So I tried it out and went, oh shit, this one actually tastes like whiskey rather than god awful. Then picked up a couple different types of sake as well as a bottle of an Irish whiskey that I haven't had before. So I figured I'd give it a go, which is Writer's Tears. So I'm curious to see if it's any good or if it is a rather poor Irish whiskey. I'm hopeful that it'll be good, though.
I was thinking about finding, because I know that you can make some pretty good sauces with whiskeys.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about finding some use for those. Yeah.
You can make delicious gravies by pouring in a finger or two of whiskey. You can really improve the flavor, or not really improve, but you can change rather pleasantly the flavor of just a mushroom and onion saute even by splashing in a finger of the right whiskey, tossing in a pat of butter, letting it dance around in the pan, and oh god, that tastes amazing.
Yeah, I remember back when I was with the mother of my kids
Mm-hmm.
when we had our separation, and my friend had just gotten out through his relationship, and so pretty much I became his Mr. French.
Nice.
Like he let me stay at the house, and I kind of just took care of things for him while he was gone.
Mm-hmm.
And every night it was find something new, and that's what we're gonna do, and we're gonna play Call of Duty or Grand Theft Auto or whatever until we're too drunk to go. And I think most of the time it was Captain Morgan 100 proof rum.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like we got into the idea of making moonshine, because they're actually from West Virginia, where they have moonshine festivals, which are held like way, 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 way out in the middle of nowhere, and you kind of have to know someone who knows where they are to find out where they are. And he's like, maybe we should think about doing something like this. And I'm like, we check out the laws at least. And every law that we looked up, stated that it is legal to own a still and operate it, so long as you don't make over 5 gallons of alcohol. And you can't sell it. Of course, that goes without saying.
You can give it away, I presume.
It has to be personal consumption and small gifts, effectively.
For Montana, it can't be a gift. It has to be.
It can't be a gift.
It has to be personal use.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that it can't be stolen every so often.
Fair enough.
So, from what my friend was saying, that because his grandfather used to be a moonshiner, and he would take a product to the river, and just leave it in the jug, and kind of leave it in this kind of enclosed bank, and then would leave and come back a couple days.
And just be gone, like the fairies took it.
Well, a couple of days later, he'd come back, and there'd be an envelope buried in the ground with some money in there.
Very nice. Yeah, it's interesting, the regulations that are around brewing and what you can, what you can't, the limits on it. And then you can, of course, get all the licensing and all that shit in order to be able to make in larger quantities and sell it. But it's been a long time since the whiskey rebellions, right? Because there were actually several whiskey rebellions in several different areas.
There we go. I'll put that into this. I'll make a poll.
Nice.
No, that just reminded me. Like, I am very much a happy drunk.
So
it is hard, and I break the mold, because you hear a lot of stories about native folk being rather aggressive once they are
mean drunks.
Yeah. And we had a friend who, I mean, granted, he was more native than I was, and once he got past a certain amount, like he was just unbearable. And he actually attacked me my first day of walking after my ACL reconstruction. And was I able to walk, I would have done it up and down his ass, because that pissed me off so bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I drink, and I drink enough to actually get an effect, I've been told that I go into what can only be described as the Irish uncle drunk. So, you know my love of telling stories when sober, of course. Dial that
yes,
up
I
rather
know everything
substantially.
about it.
God damn it, Tag. Dial that up rather substantially, and you have what drunken sanguine is like, which is what is the Irish uncle drunk. It's the storyteller.
As I said in chat that alcohol usually just makes me depressed, but thinking back, being at parties mostly makes me depressed. The alcohol just makes it worse. So I think if I was in a happier situation when I was drinking, I probably could have been a happy drunk. But the fact that I absolutely detest all the social occasions where alcohol was served meant that I really didn't want to be there, and being drunk just made it even worse.
I find a lot of people disagree on this because there's the idea that, oh yeah, drunk person's entirely different than a sober person. I find, much like money, when it comes to alcohol, it's not so much that it changes a person's personality as it amplifies aspects of their personality. So if you have someone who has that somewhat gregarious nature, the chance of them being a gregarious drunk spikes up immediately.
I mean, it lowers your inhibitions, so it makes you more likely to be who you really are. It makes it harder to maintain the facade. So for someone like me who doesn't put up much of a facade, then it just makes me more of what I already was. So.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. That it doesn't, at least to my mind and in my experience, it doesn't really change someone's personality entirely. The mean bastards that I know when they're drunk, they always have a bit of that edge where they're ready to get in a fight, even when sober.
Yeah.
And I had a friend who became a friend because he was a drunken asshole when we first met. I think I've told this story before, but on the off chance that I haven't, have you guys ever had that drunken friends story? The person that you became friends with after a fight and after they sobered up?
Nope.
Okay, so I do have one of those friends, and it was a bit after high school. I was out hanging out with my best friend, and one of his friends was there, as well as a bunch of other people that we knew. He knew better than I did. So, some people were drinking, some people weren't. This was before I turned 21, so I wasn't drinking. Yes, I am that boring of a bastard when it comes to how I live. I didn't drink in the US until after I turned 21, unlike a large number of people. But we were at the party, he was drinking, and he apparently is one of those angry, mean drunks. So he started trying to pick fights with people. And he would pick one person, try to pick a fight with them. If they didn't buy in or give him any feedback that would allow him to pick a fight, he would roll on to the next person, try to pick a fight with them, and he was just bouncing from person to person, trying to pick a fight. So I was there, I was just kind of watching this, going, great, what the fuck? And didn't really bother with it until he came up to my best friend and really started to try to pick up a fight with my best friend. At which point, I just kind of went, okay, you're done, and got in the way and started trying to restrain him because it looked like he was about to take a swing at my friend. He starts wriggling out of every time that I restrain, and he's getting progressively more angry as I'm still just, come on, sober up, stop this shit, stop trying to get, god damn it, you keep on wriggling out, come on. He's getting more pissed off, and also, as his heart rate goes up, he starts becoming steadily more sober. What I did not know is that this guy took several martial arts at various points, and got into mixed martial arts at a specific point, so had some actual ability to fight. And as he's getting more pissed off and becoming steadily less drunk, it reaches that inflection point of where he's pissed off enough that he wants to do something while being sober enough that he can actually do something.
Got to find that middle ground.
Yeah, so it reaches that point, and he grabs my right arm, pulls it out straight as quickly as he can when I was trying to restrain him. And then he wraps his arms around my wrist, and as we're standing, kind of jumps up and slams his legs into my chest, taking me to the ground and getting me in an armbar. He starts prying back with his entire body, trying to put my arm out of the socket, or more likely, trying to break it. I am rather mild-mannered most of the time. I'm fairly nice, deep guy. There is one thing that most people don't really know until they've experienced it or until I've told them, which is I hate getting into fights. Part of me fucking loves being in one. So I'll try my best to avoid a fight. The moment that it reaches that certain point, this other kind of aspect of me ticks over. And the way that I refer to it is I go calm. My friend, my best friend who was watching this, said it was one of the creepiest things he's ever seen me do, because as I go down, he has me in the armbar, he starts trying to wrench back on my arm. I just kind of say, in a somewhat amused voice, "Oh, so it's a fight then." As I bicep curl against his entire body, pulling him up off the ground and slam him into the ground. Bicep curl, slam, bicep curl. Wait, I can stand up. Grab the arm that he's still trying to pry with his whole body against just my bicep. Get to my feet, stand up, kind of arch my back awkwardly so that I can raise him up as high as I can and slam him into the ground. On that third slam, where he went from up in the air to suddenly on the ground with, at that point, a 300-pound man slamming him into the ground, his grip loosened. I picked him up, I bear hugged him, and just kept on squeezing. Yes, it was kind of the "so it's treason then" type of cadence to the "oh, so it's a fight then." And bear hugged him until his chest couldn't really expand when he was trying to take breaths, and gave him the option of the fight's over or I keep going. He decided that the fight was over. After that, this person became one of my friends, and he started to, anytime someone else would pick a fight with me, he would kind of get in the way and just kind of go, no, you don't understand. You don't want to fight this motherfucker. You do not want to fight this guy. I could kick your ass. This motherfucker kicked my ass with my ass. You don't want to fight this guy.
Now, the last couple guys that I've met, that I would say they became friends with me because I didn't want anything to do with them. They, like, one guy went through a bar and he's like, I can have soldiers here in a matter of minutes. And I'm like, soldiers? Are we going to really go with that? And he, like, would just wrap his arm around my head. And he's like, come on, friend. And I'm just like, I don't like you. Why are you taking me?
Please tell me that you gave that man the nickname Field Marshal.
No. But yeah, he was a native gentleman. And yeah, because what we would talk about native stuff at the bar. And I would always mention, you know, oh yeah, I'm native, and they're like, oh, we got a Cherokee princess here. And I was like, this is the first time I ever heard that one. Yeah. Tell them my tribal affiliation, and they're like, oh, well, I've never heard of that one. Tell me something I also haven't heard. Like, that's why I hate people telling people my tribal affiliation, is because they're just like, well, is that really a real one? Look at the website, for fuck's sake. And then people would kind of just be like, oh, okay. And that kind of drove me nuts when they're just like, oh, well, which one are you? I'm like, which one do you think I'm going to say? It's always like, it's always one of the big three, big four. But nope, not for me. It's never the big ones.
Yeah, no, all my friends I've made because, hey, we work together, we see each other every day. Well, if we get along, it makes things easier. So let's just be civil. And then sometimes, you know, casual conversations reveal that there's like common ground, like shared interests, and then we become a bit better friends. But that's it. That's the only way I've ever met friends other than school.
Oh, la-di-da, look at Terry out here with his healthy human relationships.
La-di-frickin-da!
All my online friendships are because I watch Monkey and Lords of the Night. that I think pretty much every single friend I've made online has been either directly from watching Lords of the Night or from something associated with Lords of the Night, like Minions or Badger's streams, because he used to be on Monkey in the Morning. But it all comes back to Monkey and Lords of the Night for my online social group.
So that means with the end of Lords of the Night, you're no longer going to gain any new friends. You have to make sure that you maintain all these friendships that you've developed thus far. Because apparently you're shit out of luck at developing new ones.
Well, I mean, Monkey in the Morning is still a thing, so I mean, there's that. It's still Monkey. I mean, he's still there.
I suppose, but is it that you just need Monkey as the linchpin, or is it you need Monkey, Scribe, and either SDA or Satsu as the linchpin? So now that it's just Monkey, it's all going to be lopsided friendships since then. And
it's not just Monkey; it's Monkey and Mr. Awesome / Bad Comic Reviews / Jack Cochran. So I think Jack is at least as good as Scribe and Satsu put together. So I think the system works.
So it's still going to balance out properly. You won't suddenly just be completely off kilter in all your new friendships.
Yeah, I did make some like casual acquaintances as a result of watching a guy called Matt Melvin on Twitch back when I still watched Twitch. But I couldn't tell you a single one of their names now, which gives you an indication of how close the friendships were.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting because sometimes you can gain a friend in like goddamn seconds. Other times it takes ages, and that friend. It also is strange how the length of time that it takes to make a friend does not determine how durable that friendship is. Because I've had a couple friends that I made them in goddamn instant. And then the friendship fell apart really quickly. I had other friends that I met in an instant. My best friend, for example. We became friends because we were both in the same 8th grade homeroom. And I was the new kid. That was literally the start of the friendship. And still friends all these years later. Then I had some friends that took forever to become friends. Still friends years later. Some people took forever to become friends. Friendship just collapsed. And it's strange how there's no association with the time in either direction. It's not a negative association where the quicker the friendship, the longer it'll last, or a positive association where the longer it takes to become friends, the longer it'll last after becoming friends.
Yeah, I honestly couldn't tell you how long it took for me to become friends with any of my friends. It just sort of happened. I wasn't like planning it. I wasn't like keeping a schedule and marking off days. It's just sort of, hey, I guess we're friends now.
No, clearly you have to approach friendships like it's a goddamn JRPG and keep track of your bond level.
It's a dating sim, is it? You got to keep track of the affection levels and.
Yeah, you have to keep track of the bond level. Make sure that you do all of the companion quests when they arise.
Or just do the Dragon Age thing and just spam gifts at them until they like you.
I've seen a lot of people try that. It seems to not work very well outside of Dragon Age, sadly. Or Dragon Quest, rather.
Well, no, Dragon Age.
No, it was Dragon Age, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. If you did something that your companions didn't like, you could just throw gifts at them to get their approval meter back up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I've seen a lot of people try that method. It doesn't tend to work out the best, sadly.
No. For whatever reason, Dragon Age tends not to be super realistic.
I know. I mean, I've tried consuming things' blood in order to gain a portion of their power. It doesn't work for some reason.
No. Video games lied to us.
And people look at you really strangely when you do it.
Yeah, no, I couldn't get the blood magic to work in real life, no matter how many times I cut myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had my son. It didn't work for him either.
Well, now I'm concerned. Which way did it not work? Did it not work when he was cutting himself, or did it not work when you were going, okay, time to sacrifice this child for untold power?
Well, being that he is diabetic, he has the unlimited blood source right there.
Ah, okay. Like I said, it could have gone a couple different directions with that lead-in.
See, with the context being that he's diabetic, and it's sort of like it kind of leaves people that don't know are like, wait, what? Like.
Mm-hmm.
So if he's diabetic, he's got the blood sugar, so he only needs the sex magic, and he'll be a complete album.
Yeah. And that's gross. I don't want to think about that.
Well, not now, when he's older.
It is extremely ill-advised, though, to pour some sugar on a diabetic.
Unless they're in need of the carbs.
Well, I think the blood sugar is pretty much taken care of, isn't it? There's the problem that it's too high, not that it's too low.
Well, if it's low, he does need the sugar. If it's too high, then he doesn't.
And low is much more damaging in short term, less damaging in long term. High, much less damaging in short term, much more damaging in long term.
Yeah. No, when and it always brings up whenever we talk about blood sugars that just that he had been feeling kind of he'd been high for a while, and he had been feeling kind of woozy.
I was not aware that it was legal in your state. Isn't he a bit young for that?
Never too young.
Or the wrong sort of a bit high for a while.
And my ex took him to the hospital because he had been acting erratic.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, she couldn't get his blood sugar down no matter how hard he tried. And so when they took him in, it turns out that he was in the state of diabetic ketoacidosis.
Mm-hmm.
And his blood sugar was 1,098.
Damn.
I don't know what that means.
Let's just say the normal blood sugar is supposed to be somewhere between 80 and 120.
Okay. Now I realize that is quite catastrophic.
Yeah. The last thing he remembers is getting ready to go to the hospital. Anything past getting in the car, he doesn't remember. He kind of passed out on the way to the hospital. He woke up in a different city. They life flighted him to over to Kalispell, and he just was hydrated, and they regulated his blood sugar and kept him there for a while because he was pretty close to comatose. And until he was actually able to eat food and keep it down, they didn't let him out of their sight.
It sounds horrible, like having to live with like diabetes, because from everything I hear, it just sounds like it's quite a struggle to deal with it all. But
like I've said before, we just need to reach the point where we have enough genetic modification up and running, and we have organ printing. And type 1 diabetics, we'll be able to eradicate. And we'll be able to eradicate them in the good way, not just in the please step into the shower way.
Not the Planned Parenthood way.
Not the Planned Parenthood, not the we have lovely showers way, but in the there will be no more type 1 diabetics way.
Because you win a new pancreas.
Yep. Congratulations. Here's your new organ. It actually produces insulin, unlike your shitty old one. Let's slap it in you.
Yeah, I actually asked if it would be possible for me to give him my pancreas.
Mm-hmm.
And they said that transplants would be kind of worthless because it would just fight the new system and just completely just destroy it. So then you'd have 2 diabetics, not just one.
it's something that you need to first do a bit of the gene mod in order to tweak the immune system. Then you'd have to do a reprint of it, and you potentially would have to do a gene mod of the tissue that you used for the reprint in order to get that up and running. But all three of those steps could be taken, and then you would be able to implant and run with it. Because the issue is that there's something in the formation of white blood cells that currently has them flagged to target it. So if you're able to remove that flag with gene mod, then any new ones would not be attacked, and then you'd be able to implant a proper one.
Yeah. I just glad that none of my organs have been requested, as I like having all mine.
So
you make it sound like you signing up for organ donor means that you're just going to get a call one day. Terry, we need a heart. You've come up on the list.
I saw Monty Python. I want to keep my liver.
You've come up on the list. Yes. I know you're still trying to use your heart, but you were the one that signed up. We need the heart. We'll expect you into surgery at 12. Be able to make that?
Too bad.
Say goodbye to your loved ones.
Well, I know that Camo was talking about after his mom passed, they immediately called and were asking for her organs, and it was almost. He said it was a short time before, like afterwards, that they contacted, and I'm like, no way, man. Like, I'd say he was nicer than I probably could have been. And even he was kind of like, no fucking way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I wasn't asked when my dad died, but if I had been, I'd be like, you can take the kidneys. How about that? Because his kidneys stopped working when he was 19. So, they wouldn't have been able to do much with the kidneys that he had.
Yeah, it is impressive how many different things you can do when it comes to dying and what you can have your body go to. Because you can do the standard organ donation, and everyone gets how that works. Then you can do more interesting things as well, like, do all of you know what the Body Works is?
No.
Nope.
So it's a touring exhibit that is about human anatomy and physiology. What you can do is you can donate your body to the Body Works. They'll take your body when you die, and they'll plasticize your body. When you plasticize a body, it means that you turn sections of the body into a non-degrading plastic-like substance. So you can donate your body, and they could, for instance, one of the exhibits at the Body Works is an entire human circulatory system that is just a human circulatory system, nothing else, none of the other tissue. And the way that they did that was they plasticized the circulatory system without plasticizing anything else, and then they dissolved the body in acid.
Wasn't there a killer that tried dissolving the bodies of his victims in acid?
There have been several.
And didn't it not go super well? It's like they found the goopy remains at the bottom of the bathtub or something.
So there have been several killers that have tried to do it. They have been successful to different degrees. Some of them, it just kind of turned the person into sludge and left behind bone. And then the person had to deal with bone. Some of them, they went through a more extreme process and they've been able to dissolve the body rather well. But there's still been evidence that has allowed us to go, oh, they dissolve people. So it depends on how long they were doing it and all that. Like I said, some of them did a rather nice job of trying to get rid of bodies. This sounds kind of fucked up phrasing it that way. But they... I'm not condoning what they did. I'm just saying that they did a decent job of doing their horrible shit.
Sanguine endorses acidify melting bodies in acid. You heard it here first.
Didn't you get in trouble doing this last week there, Sanguine?
I didn't condone melting bodies last week. I condoned something else. I think it was murder of pedophiles or something like that.
I think he condones... I'll have to look it up.
Make people soap.
It wasn't...
Yeah, I've talked about saponification before, which is the process of making soap. And if you try to leave a human body in a cool, dark, moist environment, then you end up with adipocere formation or soap mummies. Which, yeah, the fat in the person literally just becomes soap. It's kind of weird and trippy.
So, there's a way that I would never need to buy soap again. Interesting.
You just need to find a sufficiently fat man and store him in the right conditions upon his death.
Well, okay. This is going to save me some money.
And hopefully you aren't going to be the one who caused the sufficiently fat man's death. Because that would absolutely cause some legal issues.
For YouTube purposes, no, I'm not.
Whereas if you just happen to find a sufficiently fat man who has died, it depends on your local laws whether or not that's something that you can get in trouble for.
Well, I will take that under advisement.
All right, Jim Kramer, take it easy.
That is one thing that I find kind of amusing, that you have to look at your local laws to find out whether or not it's illegal. For that. Because technically, there are certain areas where it's not illegal to eat people. It's illegal to kill people to eat them.
Of course.
But it's not illegal to eat the people if you just happen to find bodies.
So lunchtime at the newly buried section of the cemetery.
Yeah. Well, in many of the... That's one of the even weirder parts. In many of the areas where it's not technically illegal to eat a body, it is illegal to exhume a body.
Oh, so you got to get him at the funeral home.
You have to find the body in the wild.
Okay, so you just start crashing funerals and say, "No, I didn't know him, but before you bury, can I?"
You're gonna finish that?
Yeah, I brought my own barbecue sauce.
In the middle of the funeral. Oh, is this the barbecue?
Yeah, just go to the cremation. No, this oven's way too hot. You're going to incinerate the entire thing.
You have to be careful, though, because you don't want to do it after they've been embalmed, because embalming fluid is nasty. Also, do you guys know that embalming fluid's damn near super grow for fungi?
Okay. I mean, I would have just thought it's just generally bad to eat embalming fluid as a general rule without needing specifics, but yeah.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to eat fungi, or eat embalming fluid rather, or drink embalming fluid, as the case may be.
Or smoke embalming fluid, like some people have.
Specific forms of fungus that just absolutely fucking love embalming fluid.
So this stream is putting the fun back into fungus.
Yeah. I'm giving information that people didn't even know that they didn't know. Like...
I was talking to my wife. We were walking past the salad part of the store, and they had a bunch of mushrooms in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, "Hey, those look like the ones in the backyard." And just because they happen to look kind of like it, but not exactly, so it's hard to tell. Like I can't piece together, what. If I see mushrooms in my backyard, I'm like, oh, those look like the ones from the store. Even though they don't look exactly like the ones from the store. But there's just the way that it's the way the caps are shaped. It makes it different.
Yeah, if you are ever wanting to look into learning how to forage for mushrooms, do not just go, I'm going to pick up a guidebook. Don't just go and study mycology, which is the study of mushrooms, at a local university or community college and go, see, now I can tell the difference. No. You will probably end up dead. Maybe not dead soon, but dead eventually if you do that. What you need to do is you need to find a proper local mushroom forager in your area. An experienced mushroom forager in your area, and be trained by them. Because
all you've got to do is eat the same ones they do. It's problem solved.
Well,
that's functionally what I'm saying. Where you get trained by them to see which ones they eat and how they determine the difference between that one's rather delicious and you can eat it this way, and avoid this one. It will kill you stone dead, or it will give you the shits for 2 weeks straight.
No, I've got a better idea. You find someone that you don't like and say, "Here, eat that." If they die, it's like, okay, well we don't eat that one. But then you've got to find a new person that you don't like. So.
Well, it's like I told my wife. I'm like, I'm one of those types that is like, okay, you eat that, and if they're alive, then I'll probably eat it.
I'm almost positive that I've said this before on air. I'm really interested in how the hell certain things were able to be figured out how to eat them. And there's one thing specifically that the only way that I can imagine it is first people found out that if you eat this, you die. And then they started using it as a form of execution. And then they realized, as they were trying to execute someone with it, that, wait, this person didn't die. Try it again. They still didn't. Try it again. Nope. And then finally found out, okay, if I cut it this, okay, that kills them. Wait, so if I cut it this way, it's safe? Is fugu.
Yeah, I was thinking I was assuming that's what you were referring to. Because, there's only a very small part of it that's safe to eat or...
It has to be cut in a very specific way. If it is cut in any other manner, it will kill you stone dead. But if you cut it in the right way, it's apparently rather tasty.
I know in, I think it's the first Hitman game, you can actually, because it's set in Japan, you can actually use blowfish as a lethal poison if you want to poison the target.
Nice.
Like if you didn't bring any in your mission preparation, you can just go into the kitchen and there's a blowfish there. So you just grab a knife, cut obviously the wrong way, and then you can use it to poison food, and then they eat it and die.
Yeah. The training for fugu, in order to actually be able to prepare it, is rather impressive. It takes a fairly long period of time. And they have the most sensible and also the most, you better really know what you're doing if you decide to take this test. because the final test for learning how to make fugu
You could
is
eat it.
cut and eat your own.
Yeah.
So you either did it right and
You died.
get a really nice meal, or you cut it wrong and you're dead in a couple seconds.
See, I first heard about it from The Simpsons, where they go to the sushi restaurant and Homer eats the fugu, and like they think it was cut wrong, so he's like got 24 hours to live, and then like, he ends up being fine.
Mm-hmm. It is substantially less than 24 hours in real life, though.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So it sounds like Hitman got it right, because in Hitman, if they eat the fugu, it is like 5 seconds, like a 5-second death animation, and then they're dead.
Wouldn't they have some sort of antitoxin for that, or is that just something
Nope.
that
There's
you're
absolutely
fucked
no.
regardless?
There's absolutely no antitoxin for fugu. So the poison that causes the issue is TTX. Let me quickly look up the full name of TTX. I remember the shortened form. And it is one of the most deadly natural poisons that we have access to. It is tetrodotoxin is TTX. So tetrodotoxin is one of the most deadly poisons that we have access to on Earth. And yeah, it is very short order. Kills you stone dead. Though they found out that in a absolutely obscene dilution of tetrodotoxin, it's actually a nerve block. So there's, last I checked into it, it's been a few years, so it might actually be out of the clinicals, or it might have failed in one of the clinicals. But they were doing clinical tests on live patients for the efficacy of TTX micro dilutions being injected directly into the spine of spinal pain patients. And it is, like I said, one of the most deadly natural poisons that we know of. It's this horrendous neurotoxin.
Well, I have no plans of taking the gamble on ordering it. Should I ever have sushi? He's like, nah. I'll stick to tuna.
If I ever order it, I have to be at a place that is known for their fugu. And I would definitely ask for, hey, do you currently have your license for this? Double check their license, make sure that everything's signed off on it correctly, and then go, okay, yeah, I'll have the fugu.
No. Eel, tuna, salmon, all these things are fine and will not kill me. So I'll stick with those. I'm not going to take a chance on the super duper neurotoxin. I can probably live without trying fugu.
Yep. That's why God created the eel.
Eel is good. I like eel.
I love unagi.
That's the thing that they think is like a martial art in Friends. Is like Ross is going unagi and like doing this thing with his hands, and he's like, that just means eel, right?
Yep. But it tastes so goddamn good.
Yes. Eel is good. Duck is good. Those are like my usual. If I'm not getting one of the standard, like lamb or chicken or beef, I'll usually go duck or eel.
Yeah, I love duck, though. Duck, with the exception of Peking duck, has to be medium rare for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't
Peking duck.
I don't think you're seducing anyone with a neurotoxin.
Well, I mean, if you're a necrophiliac, perhaps.
Happy birthday to me.
God damn it. And for some reason, that just made me think: always befriend an exo cannibal, never befriend an endo cannibal.
Yeah.
Which is still one of my favorite things to say, just because people always have the reaction once that it's explained of, why do we even have words for this? For those who don't know what exo and endo cannibals are. Exo cannibals will eat anyone that isn't in their group, their friends, their family, shit like that. Endo cannibals will only eat people within their group, their family, their friends, and people like that.
So don't be friends with those guys.
Yeah. Never befriend an endo cannibal. Always befriend an exo cannibal.
Wise words. I think just avoid cannibals in general is also a winning strategy. But if you must enter the cannibal friendship game, then yes, Sanguine's advice is sound.
No. See, if you just try to not be associated with cannibals at all, then you could become prey to an exo cannibal.
But
the only way to be safe from the exo cannibal is to become that cannibal's friend.
Or their family. So if you just have if you marry a bunch of relatives of cannibals, you can get around it that way. You don't have to be friends with the idiot. Just accumulate cannibal wives.
So become a Mormon and just have all of your sister wives come from cannibal families?
There you go. I think we solved the problem.
I'd rather like that solution. That is fantastic.
Oh, man. So I did happen upon, because I was watching Scribe's stream earlier, where he's talking about the TED talk that Keyberdam actually brought up earlier, that TEDx actually scrubbed this lady's TED talk from their library because she got caught lying about her heritage.
She Elizabeth Warrened the situation.
From my understanding of the article, she not only Elizabeth Warren, she like tripled down her Elizabeth Warren.
Oh, nice.
Like, oh, so she Delahazed.
Yeah.
Transracial, yo.
Yeah.
Well,
the only person to successfully Delahazed without having any real blowback is Sean King.
Yeah, that's true.
He's kind of in the middle with everything, though. Like, there are people who are like calling him out, and there are people who are like, "Oh, he's one of us."
Were you on the stream when Frosted read that loving tribute to Sean King?
Yes, I was.
Right. I couldn't remember if you were on that week or one of the ones next to it, but yeah.
Oh wait, no, that was last week, so no, I wasn't.
But yeah, it was like this article was like, "All hail Sean King, greatest man ever to walk the earth."
Was it written by Sean King?
I asked that exact question, and apparently not.
Are you sure it wasn't one of his nom de plumes?
I am not. I am not sure of that at all.
The dead giveaway is if it's talcum in the name, it's probably a Sean King.
Yeah, Keyberdam mentioned Talcum X, which I love as a nickname for him. I think that is genius.
Yeah, and that just reminded me of a couple things that really piss me off that I keep hearing people trying to push. Have you guys heard the people trying to push the Martin Luther King Jr. was a socialist line?
No, I don't think so.
Oh no, it was. I was on that one.
Okay.
Sean
cool.
King is the greatest hero of our age.
There you go.
It's something that has been happening more and more recently, where people will try to claim that Martin Luther King was a socialist. As evidence of this, they will point to him being for programs like he wanted a revival of the Tripsies. Do either of you know what the Tripsies are?
Is that like Three of a Kind in a card game?
No. It's an old school work program from around the time and right before World War II. So it's the program that ended up making most of the national highway system.
Okay.
It was during the economic collapse, the Great Depression. They went, a lot of people don't have jobs. Let's hire them to do manual labor. Let's hire them to work and they'll get paid for doing these jobs. And also it'll allow us to build this massive highway system as well as a large number of great works. So the Hoover Dam.
Manual labor was like some Mexican guy?
No, not manual labor. It's manual.
Okay.
As in done with one's hands. Manuel labor's entirely different person.
Okay.
But yeah, the Tripsies made a shit ton of the national highways, as well as they made like the Hoover Dam and shit like that. Big fucking important things. And it's something that a number of people have said, maybe we should think about reinstating the Tripsies. Martin Luther King was very much in favor of the Tripsy idea because he viewed it as people that aren't able to find a job would just be given a job as part of the Tripsies, and they would be able to earn their way and also gain experience and then use that to gain actual jobs. So we're already paying for making roads. Why not just have these people hired to make the roads? Has some sort of logic to it, right?
Yeah.
So they'll point to him being in favor of Tripsy-like programs as proof that he was a socialist, as well as at one point he advocated for something kind of like a public option for healthcare. And they'll use both of those and go, see, socialist. The problem is that they'll completely ignore the many, many times that he just absolutely ranted and railed against communism.
That's probably a strike against the claim that he was a socialist.
Yeah, and then people also always bring up Malcolm X. Malcolm X was a radical socialist / communist when he was younger, and a violent revolutionary who actively pushed for a lot of the same shit that's being pushed for now. Do you guys know why Malcolm X died? And how he died?
His heart stopped beating?
Bullets?
He was assassinated. Do you know who he was assassinated by?
No.
He was assassinated by his own political party.
I saw the movie. Yeah, it's a bunch of... Yeah, I thought they were the same folks in his group.
Yeah. He was assassinated by other members of his own group because when he was younger, he was absolutely the fiery communist revolutionary that many people talk about him as, advocating for a radical black nationalist form of communism, effectively. But when he got older, he started realizing and actively saying that he was wrong to advocate for what he had advocated for before. That it was actually
that'll get you a bullet.
Extremely dangerous what he was doing. And he started talking about how Martin Luther King, someone that when he was younger, he ranted and railed against Martin Luther King, saying that Martin Luther King was advocating for something that would do nothing for black people and was ultimately dangerous. He started going, yeah, I was wrong, and Martin Luther King had the right of it.
I don't know much about Malcolm X except that I think it was the first episode of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Will Smith idolized the guy. That's it. That's my knowledge of Malcolm X.
Yeah, and that was one of the aspects of that show where Will very early on kind of idolized Malcolm X and Malcolm X-like people, whereas Uncle Phil was very much a more Martin Luther King style person.
Yeah.
And over the course of the show, Will started looking at those radical black revolutionaries and black nationalists as more and more of a problem, and looking at Uncle Phil as having the right of it, and looking at Carlton as having the right of it. In fact, that was one of the episodes when they had the college age episodes of The Fresh Prince, where the Fresh Prince and Carlton were both going to the same college, and Carlton was trying to get into the black student union effectively.
He wasn't black enough.
And yeah, they called him not black enough and were shaming him because he was talking too white and acting too white. And Will's reaction to that was, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah. It was a great episode.
Yeah, it was a fantastic episode that actually had an important message. And that was one of the great things about those old series, where people don't really get pissed off when something touches on politics. People get pissed off when something is having politics shoehorned into it.
Yeah, absolutely. That was such a good episode because, the reactions were, believable. Like, when Will heard the reason that Carlton was being excluded, he's like, I don't want to hurt my cousin. I'll say I was the one that was rejected. And, and then Carlton is like, you do not reject my cousin. He is an awesome person. And then that's when it all, no, we want Will. We just don't want you. And then, but the whole dynamic there of they each wanted to protect each other's feelings and stand up for them is really cool to watch.
Yeah, and it is an exceptionally well done show, which is what people want. They want really well done stories. And yeah, you can have a story that has politics in it.
Yeah.
Just make it make sense when it comes into play. Don't shoehorn it in, and don't be overly preachy about it. Because the thing is, in that episode, they made it fairly easy to understand where each character was coming from.
Yes.
And they didn't really demonize anyone until the very end, where it was, you know what, fuck you for saying this about Carlton.
Yeah.
And it was all shit that made sense, and it was all believable. But we've stopped doing that, which is why people get pissed off about, oh, yeah, you're going to insert politics into this.
Yeah. I mean, they had a lot of racial messages in that show. There was one where, I forget if it was Will or Carlton, but one of them got pulled over basically for being black. And it's like, Uncle Phil was like, that's going to happen. And it's absolutely not fair, but, I remember when it first happened and I felt that same anger, but you will have to get used to it. This is going to happen. And I was like, that's a very political message in a, but basically a kids show, but well, not kids, but like teens. But it was done in a way that didn't feel lecturing. It wasn't like, and now here is the moral. You will listen to why black people are oppressed for the next 5 years. Like, no, it was a believable part of the show, and the uncle was like talking to his nephews, like, I understand what you're feeling. I've gone through the same thing. And it was like how a family member would actually react.
Yeah, and along with the actual impact, it had a lot of really good messages that people aren't told anymore when it comes to that. And that episode specifically, the one that you were just talking about, it did have Uncle Phil kind of explaining, if this happens, and you know that it's fucked up, okay. Remember that, keep everything in mind, but do as you're directed. Don't give them any excuse. And we can fight this afterwards, but in that moment, just deal with it.
Yeah.
Don't go and act up. Don't snap at them. Don't do anything to give them an excuse to escalate. Just deal with it, and then once you're safe again, we'll go after however we need to go after. Yeah. Which is something that needs to be told to people, because it happens. You'll never reach a point where there is zero crime. You'll never reach a point where there is zero racism. Because, at least this is my belief, other people disagree. I believe that there's a certain percent of the population that it does not matter how you treat them. You could beat them like a goddamn dog every day of their life, horrendously abuse them, effectively work them through the histories of every serial killer that has that really dark, fucked up childhood. You could put them through those childhoods, and they would still just be an amazing person. Then there are also a certain percent of the population that you could put them through the most ridiculously perfect childhood, where they have the right amount of upset so that they don't end up that spoiled, or so that they shouldn't end up that spoiled brat, but they have the right amount of nurture so that they shouldn't end up a complete goddamn sociopath. And when they reach adulthood, they'll still be kidnapping people and executing them in horrifically fucked up manners. Because there's just a certain percent of the population that is really pure and a certain percent that is fucked up from the go. The vast majority of the population is somewhere in between. And you can limit somewhere in between people. You can make it so that they're less likely to commit crimes. You can make it so that they're more likely to commit crimes. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make it so that everyone in between those two extremes is the least likely to commit a crime that we can. But you'll never You'll never reach a point where there's zero crime at all, because you have that one fucked up section, and you never reach a point where there would just be everyone committing crime against everyone, because you have that small percent of the ridiculously pure.
I think if everyone is a criminal except you might be ridiculously pure, but you won't be for very long, because you are going to get killed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You won't have a very long life, but there will always be that certain percent of the population that is that pure bit of the population. At least to my mind. And that's the thing that we're trying to shift everyone in the middle more towards that end of the spectrum and get them to be less likely, but you're never going to eliminate it entirely. And the same thing with racism, the same thing with pretty much any other situation. You have the people that will always do it, you have the people that will never do it, and then you have the vast majority in that middle.
Well,
So you can reduce racism, but you can't completely eliminate racism.
Well, you've also got to remember the definition of racism is basically having white skin. So under that criteria of 2021, yeah, there's no way you can get it to 0.
Well, actually, under that criteria, there is a way that you could get it to 0.
Well, I mean, if you can orchestrate that level of genocide, then sure.
Yeah, it is horrendously fucked up, but there is actually a way that you could, under that specific definition and no other definition, you could actually reduce it to 0. And also under that specific definition, you could do the exact opposite and make it 100%. Both of them require genocides.
Well, I think the real problem is if you actually did do that, the definition of white would change. They'll be like, okay, we've got rid of all the actual whites, but you're looking pretty pale for a black man. I think you need to go next.
Oh, yeah. It will always shift. Those sorts of ideologies will always shift. The insane white nationalists, I guarantee that if they ever succeeded in their endeavors, the next thing would be, okay, so are the Irish really white?
Well, you know my favorite white nationalist of all, and it's weird that I have one, I know, but Tara McCarthy, because she had like an Indian grandfather and she was still fully on board with white supremacy. It's like, you realize you're not getting into the ethno state.
Yeah. It's very strange, the things that people can twist their minds into.
How do you be a white supremacist advocating for a white ethno state when your grandfather's Indian? Like, you will not be allowed in. Yep. Like, by definition, you don't qualify.
Yeah. Like I said, it is very strange how people can contort themselves into various ideologies, and you're just going, what the fuck?
Yeah, but usually they're self-serving. Like, this is like, I want a white ethno state. Like, cool, you're not in it. Go away.
Well, you say usually they're self-serving, and yeah, to a large degree they are. But then we also currently have massive hordes of people that are in the non-self-serving category, because we have her, for example. But then think of every insanely woke person.
Yeah.
And they're the exact same, only on the opposite side.
I think, was it white women are the only group that like have an out-group preference instead of an in-group preference? Like, every other race and gender combination has an in-group preference, but white women, I think it was white women. It might have been more specific than that, but they actually hate their own in-group and prefer the out-group, which is why so many of the wokies are women. Is like they support the Black Lives Matter to their own detriment.
Yep. Yeah, it's very strange, the psychology of certain people. And it is absolutely infuriating, because if we just stopped laser focusing on race would stop being such a big issue. And here's the thing.
Color blindness is racist, Sanguine.
And the thing about that is people seem to have this idea that saying we should make it so that we don't really see race, that we should be colorblind. They think that that means we should make it so that we don't see racism. No. That's a different sentiment. Saying that we should reach a point where race is not the most important thing about a person, you can still tell when someone is being racist, but you'd then be able to go, yeah, this is actually them being racist. This isn't anything else. This is just them being fucked up.
Yeah, people act as if we're advocating. You look at Dave Chappelle and it's like, well, he's black, you say? Oh, well, you could have fooled me. I don't see color, you know. Like, no, obviously you can look at him and tell what color his skin is. What we're advocating for is that it not matter what color someone's skin is.
Reach the point where, for the greatest number of people possible, because, like I said, you'll never reach 100%.
Except through genocide, as discussed.
Yes, except through, well, it's only through genocide if you use the definition of racist means you are of this group or that group.
Yes.
If you use the actual definition of racism, you'll never reach 100%. Because what you'll end up with is, after you get rid of this horde of people over here that were the original targets, suddenly the people that were racist against that group are now going, well, we did a really good job of getting rid of those people, but again, are the Irish really white? Are the Italians really white? And on the other side, you'd have, are the lighter-skinned North Africans really black?
Well, I mean, if Sean King is black, I think everyone is black.
Sean King is one of the few people that makes me go, I might actually be darker than him. And I'm damn near so white I could get moonburns.
I am in the summer. I am darker than Sean King.
Nice.
Kivadam in chat mentioned Tila Tequila, and yeah, on her Wikipedia page it says she posted an article, "Why I Sympathize with Hitler, Part 1."
Oh God, who was that? There was a guy, I'm trying to remember who the fuck it was. It was the Asian Nazi.
I don't
From
remember.
the early days of YouTube. There was this Asian Nazi, really goddamn shitty quality videos and audio. Everything was just god awful. But you were confused because he would just completely rant and rail against everything not Aryan, and you're looking at him going, "You're clear. What the?"
He sounds like a real clever clogs. He sounds like he knows what he's talking about there.
Yeah, it was effectively him advocating for his own death, and you're just going, "What the fuck? How are you?"
I'm disappointed that I missed out on this guy. He sounds hilarious, unintentionally, but it's still hilarious.
Oh yeah, this guy was full-blown shit. He had the Nazi flag behind him in every video. He wore the Nazi armband in most videos. And you're just going, what the fuck?
Kivadam is suggesting Hank Yu might be the name of that Asian Nazi. Does that sound familiar?
It might be. Let me check. I know it's not Amos Yee.
No. He's the pedo.
Yeah, Amos Yee's the one who wants to be a chomo.
I do not know who Hank Yu is.
No, I've never heard of him.
Yes, it is Hank Yu.
Okay.
Yeah, he had the Confederate flag, he had the Nazi flag, he was just a very, very strange man.
It's reading the Tila Tequila Wikipedia page on May 6th, 2016. Nguyen, apparently her real name, tweeted the Jewish American political commentator Ben Shapiro should be gassed and sent back to Israel, and later posted, "There are only two things in this world for which I would gladly sacrifice my own life: the destruction of all Jews and preservation of the white race." And she's like Vietnamese.
Well, that goes with the article or the thing that I found from the corner last week is Real Jew News.
Oh yeah. That was great.
Yeah, that's a new stream thing for us there.
But my next one is, you know what will help Asians earn respect? An Asian version of Adolf Hitler. I want that person to be me. I want to save the world from this Zionist disease.
Good lord.
So she wants to be the Asian Hitler. That is impressive, the racist.
But
just what the fuck?
Yeah.
well, and on that high note, I'm starting to fade out a bit, so I'm going to have to call
We've been
it.
going a while.
About an hour and a half. Going with parting thoughts. Sanguine?
I'll leave off with my standard of if you're passionate about something, make sure that you devour it. Don't let it devour you.
And Terry?
And that Sanguine's goes double if it's the right type of cannibal. Don't let them devour you.
Nice.
And
Though if you're passionate about cannibalism, I have to worry about you now. And I have to ask, exo or endo? I want to make sure that I'm on the right side of things.
and,
Well, I'm not. I'm just saying that if you are in that situation, what your final remarks were goes double.
True.
and I will go with a classic. I don't like pain. It hurts me.
That's true.
That's a Daffy Duck quote.
Wise words from the duck.
And on that note, the zoo is closed. Have a good night.
Have a good
Bye,
night.
guys.